Most university, college departments, and even art schools don't give you a lot of business advice. You have to find that out on your own. But the biggest thing is just to do your own critiques. Is your work on the same level as what you're looking at in these other galleries?
The art world is always changing. It's a dynamic space where creativity and commerce collide. Finding your path and staying true to your craft isn't easy. Welcome to the Professional Artist Podcast. This show explores what it truly takes to build a meaningful and sustainable art career. Each week, we offer intimate, in-depth conversations that reveal which business strategies actually work, giving you the inspiration and insight to fuel your artistic journey. I'm your host today, Christina Demiani, and in this episode, we're exploring the work of Denise Stewart-Sanabria. Denise creates hyper-realistic paintings that stop you in your tracks. Through so-called objects of desire, her art dives deep into the human psyche. Denise's work is part of the permanent collection of the Tennessee State Museum, the Evansville Museum of Art in Indiana, and the Knoxville Museum of Art. In this conversation, you're going to hear some real gems of practical advice from Denise, including persistence and visibility. Denise talks about the importance of making yourself visible and gives specific actions you can take to raise your profile and sell your work. Due diligence. We talk a lot in this episode about doing your due diligence when working with galleries. You're going to learn from Denise what questions you must ask before agreeing to gallery representation. And finally, self-critique. You'll understand from Denise why critiquing your own work is so important for you as an artist to do, and how to start that process. All right, let's head into the gallery and explore the world of Denise Stewart-Sanabria. Today, we're starting with the piece Denise chose to represent her practice, a painting titled Godzilla +2.
I like to take different cultural things from different centuries and find odd and interesting ways in which to connect them. The painting is basically centered around a Godzilla toy that they come in both pink scales and turquoise scales, but I've got the pink one. And they have the attached laser blast coming out of its mouth. So it's got this pink, oh gosh, it almost looks like projectile vomiting, but in a really good way. And it splats into something. It's on a tile foreground. And in the background, there is an example of classical 19th century toile wallpaper, which was a style they referred to at the time as Japanism. There's also a teapot next to Godzilla that has images of Godzilla on it surrounded by flowers. I use a lot of photo reference, but I diverge from it a lot. With colors, I'll change entire color themes, mix up several photographs together.
Denise's paintings catch the eye with unusual, playful imagery and a vibrant color palette. But as we will hear, her why of art making holds deeper layers, and each of her works is a study of the things people cherish and collect, both historically and today. Behind the careful staging is a sustained inquiry into the mythologies of our cultures and the nature of attraction, pleasure, and desire.
I'm looking at human behavior, often history and things like that. I'm trying to look at things from an ironic point of view. I'm looking at people's obsessions through centuries. What do people want? What obsessions them? What are they absolutely passionate around? And what do they want to surround themselves with? What do they want to plaster their walls with? What kind of food are they eating? In the case of Godzilla, Godzilla is not just a toy. It's not just a thing. It's an actual mythology that was brought about really by one man in Japan as a psychological coping mechanism of what happened with them due to atomic bombs. Mythologies all through time, they come from a lot of trauma, a lot of trying to understand how the world works. coming up with supernatural creatures. Sometimes they can be ideal, sometimes creatures of horror. I have seen people stand in front of that Godzilla painting longer than any other painting that was in this entire group exhibit in two different places, and it was especially fun to watch the kids. I used to do a lot of purely food paintings, like donuts. I did a huge series of donuts behaving badly, and there was everything from the morning after shots of drunken, mutilated donuts trying to hold each other up to the seven deadly sins, where half of them I used Krispy Kreme and the other half I used Dunkin' Donuts because they're different. Krispy Kremes are more like people sunning on a beach in Florida, and Dunkin' Donuts, especially the jelly-filled ones, are more like white Rubenesque women powdered with. So that variety worked out.
As Denise's story unfolds, we can hear that she has prioritized building relationships, especially in her local art community. Her involvement with the Fort Wayne Museum of Art helped her build strong relationships that went beyond exhibitions, leading to new opportunities.
They had a biennale that was called Contemporary American Realism. Every 2 years, they would have an open call for artists to submit realist work to get into a show that was co-curated with Bernarducci Meisel New York Gallery. They stopped, I think the last one was 2014, but I had been in it three different times, like 2008, 2012, and 2014. I became really familiar with them and their staff. I knew people in the community, and eventually I was invited by the University of St. Francis to do a solo show at the University Gallery and stay up there and lecture and give the kids workshop.
For artists who want to have their work acquired by a museum, Denise highlights that proactively making yourself visible is an important part of that process. She shares practical insights on the path to increasing visibility and how she navigated the journey of building her exhibition resume.
It's just nothing but continuous work and hustling, and making yourself visible. And just over the years, I did juried shows, and some of them were local. Once, when I was really short on money, there was this one in the next county. I used to go in because I knew I would be guaranteed to walk off with several $100s in award money. But anyways, for visibility for juried shows, depending upon what part of the country you live in, there's nonprofit organizations that are near you that have juried shows. There's art fairs. In the South, we have this thing called Art Fields. It is massive, and it was based on, if you're familiar with Art Prize from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which was international. Art Fields was founded by a billionaire real estate agent from New York who had grown up in Lake City, South Carolina, where it's held. And the venue includes several professional galleries and everything else from barbershops to clothing stores to restaurants. The Mexican restaurant they use their entire back banquet hall as a gallery space during this event, which occurs for 2 weeks every spring. They might like your stuff and invite you for a solo show, which is what happened to me.
Visibility through juried shows and events is one piece of the puzzle. Another piece is building lasting gallery relationships, which takes time and careful consideration. Denise reflects on how her early gallery opportunities came about. She also shares critical, actionable advice for artists on due diligence and best practices when working with a gallery.
The first way I got into a gallery was there was this thing called the Tennessee Bank Show, and it was a juried exhibit that was held every year at East Tennessee State University's Reese Museum. I got into it the first time, and a lot of gallery owners used to go there to look for fresh work. They saw my work there and they invited me to be in the gallery. Boom, that was gallery number one. They eventually opened another gallery in Asheville, North Carolina, and they brought my work up there, and then they sold that gallery to their gallery director. And so then I was in 2 galleries. I'm on my 3rd gallery in Charleston now, and the one I wanted to be with all along, which is Robert Lang Studios. But it took a series of one gallery going under, another gallery switching to focus on interior design too much for me to finally get to the place I wanted to ultimately be. But that's just one total connected thing. The best way to do it is just be out there and exhibit all over the place as much as you can. And Juried exhibits is also joining organizations that put on shows and things like that are good ways. And you finally build up a resume that's strong enough. And then as for approaching galleries, you have to be more careful about that. You cannot cold walk into a gallery and get them to sign you. You have to know somebody that's already exhibiting in there. You have to have a connection. For anyone that is asked to be in a gallery, or if you're looking and you're really focusing, you want to be in this gallery, you never sign with a gallery until you have messaged at least 4 artists that are already signed by that gallery, and you ask them the 2 magic things. Do they pay on time? And are they good to work with? Never, ever go with a gallery when they say, well, I had to wait 6 months. They're in the minority, but those galleries are out there and you want to avoid them like the plague. Unfortunately, they don't go out of business, and you got to watch out for yourself. And if you're female, focus on the other female artists, because the male artists might ignore you. Now, when a gallery closes and the gallery owes you money, the guys will answer back. Beware of this also. I had a friend that was approached by a California gallery that asked her to send 3 pieces and to sign with them. And she sent them without documentation. Then they never paid her and claimed that they never received the paintings. Whenever you deliver or do anything, you email them your inventory and delivery lists with the prices and everything. You have that email forever. Inside a package, if you're shipping, you have the inventory list inside that package. When you FedEx it or UPS it, don't just have the stick-on label with the scanning stuff. Write in Sharpie the delivery, the address, and everything separately on the box.
This next piece marks a turning point in Denise's career, not just for its vivid subject matter, but because it became part of the permanent collection at the Knoxville Museum of Art. From its unique elements to the story behind its acquisition, Denise talks to us about her painting, which has an unforgettable title, 18th Century French Pastoral Toile Culture Shock.
The background of it is the backdrop. Some people say, is that really wallpaper? And I say, I painted the wallpaper. And I believe it's based on an original 18th century French toile de joie wallpaper, not the original colors. I amped that green up the wazoo because I wanted the green to play back and forth with the moon pies. And that's a stack of genuine Chattanooga moon pies. On top of it, in the foreground, you can see these yogurt-colored pretzels that are really pretty. And then there's ribbon candy, that chewy, gummy ribbon candy that's swirling off the plate. And you can see a moon pie wrapper. I know the curator. Basically, I know the entire staff there. I became a member of the guild. They do most of the fundraising for the museum by having events. Like they used to have an art auction, and they wanted an artist to come in to guide them in like art selection and stuff like that. So I joined the guild so I could help them round up a huge collection of art every single year to have in artscapes. And so I'd be in and out of the museum, and I'd be talking to the staff and everything like that. And we'd interact with them, asked for approval for things. They just look at your resume. They look at where you've been exhibiting. I have a piece in the Tennessee State Museum, and I have a piece in the Evansville Museum of Art and Science in Evansville, Indiana. And so I think this was my third museum acquisition piece. Most regional museums in the United States now, they're not collecting iconic works from the top 100 painters from New York because they don't even have the money to be able to afford something that cost $250,000 at auction. They want to have works representative in regional museums that represent the history of regional art from the area. And I ended up being one of them. And I've got friends, a couple of professors at UT Knoxville that are in the permanent collection. They have a traveling show and it comes in, or the curator curates a show, and that show does not leave the museum until they've had one of their patrons on the board or something, or the collector's circle buy that for the museum, or they find the museum funding to buy a piece for, and that's how a museum collection is built in a regional museum.
When it comes to building a sustainable art career in your region, Denise doesn't hesitate. Networking has been her foundation. Not just attending events, but volunteering and staying personally involved in her local art ecosystem.
I've done so much volunteer work over the years, curating shows, jurying shows, hanging shows. We have a huge local nonprofit called the Arts and Cultural Alliance, where I worked with them for years. They would be short staffed, so I would go in and help them as a subcontractor. Part of what it is to be an artist, you want to have a lot of other artists in your group that you hang out with and you say, hey, you know what? Do you think that we could get away with this? If we ask permission and you form an organization, having a strong artists network brings you to the attention of the people that sell the work to galleries. You get into galleries that way, or you get commissions.
The final piece Denise chose to share with us is one that speaks directly to the power of peer support. It's a large-scale work commissioned by a foundation that pushed the limits of her studio and brought her entire network of relationships into play.
This piece is 12.5 feet wide and 6 feet high. It incorporates 112 photographs on aluminum, and each photograph is 12 inches by 12 inches. They're archival, and they're sandwiched. There's a front photo and a back photo, and they are mounted together with a wooden square. It's like a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch piece of wood on the edge side. And in the middle of each edge on each side is a magnet. So you can tap each photo and they'll rotate. All of the photos are photographs from the family albums of the founders of the Ayers Foundation, which is a scholarship foundation. I had to do a commission that was bigger than my capacity to do it out of my studio. And so when it came time to find the best person to print all these photographs on aluminum, I went to one of the other guys in my Nashville gallery. His work is all printed on aluminum. And I said, who do you get to do your printing? And he said, the best person is in Chattanooga. So I got the recommendation for that company. And then I got another recommendation for the signs. My gallery itself used their connection. They used their installer, and their installer helped do the installation. And my husband's a structural engineer, so I also double checked all kinds of structural weight load stuff on him. It was my gallery that got the commission for me.
Mentorship, both formal and informal, has played a big role in Denise's journey, and not just as a recipient. From sharing practical advice with peers to navigating the business side of art, her experience sheds light on how critical it is to understand not only your craft, but the environment that supports it.
I have friends that get together with critique groups, and they get together every couple of months and they sit and they rip each other's work apart. Or they'll say, I think this is a breakthrough, go in this direction. But the biggest thing is just to do your own critiques. Is your work on the same level as what you're looking at in these other galleries? I have mentored a ton of people. I have had a few people I don't know if you could call it mentoring. We just give each other tips on tricks and things like that. And one person early off told me, if you really like what some artist is doing and you think, how did they get in that show? How did they get in that show? Look at another artist's resume or CV on their website and see what exhibits have they been in, and then figure out how to exhibit in that same place. When I was in college, most university, college departments, and even art schools don't give you a lot of business advice. You have to find that out on your own. There's a lot of good art business books out there, and that's how I learned a lot. There's this book that's really recent. It's called How to Be a Successful Artist, and it's written by an economist. And he tells you actually the structure, the economic structure of the entire art market. It helps you understand how to be a better partner with your gallery, because when you're in a gallery, they don't work for you, you work for each other. You sell directly through them. You never sell directly out of your gallery when you are signed to a gallery in that region. I know a lot of artists who do that. Most have gotten kicked out. It's like cheating on your spouse. So it's a collaborative attempt, a business partnership. Recently, I have had art representatives from Atlanta contact me for jobs. And one of them was to reproduce a bunch of my paintings on aluminum to put in the Epicurean Hotel in Midtown Atlanta. That was fine. I don't have a gallery in Atlanta. No problem. I worked for her direct. But then there was another art representative that was contracted by the Cherokee Country Club, which is in Knoxville. And the country club was totally redesigning its interior and building new dining rooms and stuff like that. I was signed by Bennett Gallery in Knoxville. They represented me. So I immediately got in touch with Bennett's and say, do I have them go through you? And of course, in that case, they would have split the commission. It was like 70-30 or 75-25. But Bennett's told me, never mind. Do that one on your own. Do that one straight through them. You don't have to worry about us. But I let them know. And the other two Knoxville artists that were with them did not let them know.
To wrap up the conversation, Denise encourages artists to take advantage of the many opportunities available to grow and gain visibility. She reminds us that the cornerstone of a professional art career is the work itself, and how residencies can be a powerful tool to create both cohesive work and connections.
If you're a recent graduate, all these different residencies are all over the world, and some of them are exploitive and they ask you for money to stay there. You look for the ones that are going to pay you, and they're going to give you an honorarium, and they're going to give you a stipend to buy supplies and stuff like that. One guy that got his MFA from UT Knoxville went for, I think it was 4 months, a residency in Hawaii. I think it was connected with the University of Hawaii in Honolulu. And then from there, he went to a residency in Alaska. That was like months in Alaska. They paid everything. He was living free. I know professors and everything like that, they'll pay for that Vermont Studios residency place. And it's just hanging around other artists and watching what they're doing, learning from a group. But when you're working on a body of work, which you have to have a consistent body of work to go anywhere, getting isolated in a way to focus on that work, a residency that pays you to be there, room and board, plus money for supplies. And it's competitive, but they're all over the places. Also, another powerful thing, try to get into publications, juried publications like New American Artist, Beautiful Bazaar magazine. Those are two of them. And, publications is a really cool thing to empower your CV.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Professional Artist Podcast. Today, Denise Stewart-Sanabria shared practical insights from her journey to help artists navigate the challenges of growing their careers. From intentionally making yourself visible to knowing the right questions before signing with galleries, her insights help us understand that persistence, visibility, and nurturing meaningful connections are key to success in the art world. This podcast grows because people like you share it. So if you got value today, if it inspired you to think differently or take action, hit follow or subscribe and send it to one person who needs to hear it. That's how we keep making more episodes. Thank you for listening to the Professional Artist Podcast, and until next time.